All right, Shalom Aleichem Rabotai. Welcome to our Wednesday class on Yalkut Yosef. We're in the Hichot Keriyat Shema, and right before we dive right back into where we stop, I'm in a little debt. What's my debt? Last week I said something that wasn't really accurate. I want to fix it today, Be'ezrat Hashem. I kept on saying regarding a minyan that doesn't have people that answer amen, that when you don't have the 9 people answering, it's brachot levatala. But really, if I should have been more careful, the language of the Shulchan Aruch is not that it's brachot lebatala, but it's karov lihiyot berkotav lebatala, which means his blessings are close to being beracha levatala. So what's the difference? Why is there this language and not that language? Some say, what does it mean? The Shulchan Aruch says close to being brachot lebatala. If they're not people answering, it's not a minyan. It is berachot lebatala. So this is an opinion of certain rabbis. For example, the Ben Ishchai, Shulchan Aruch Harav. Shulchan Aruch Harav is he who wrote the Tanya, the book of Chabad that everyone knows, the Baal Tanya. He has his own Shulchan Aruch for Chabad, and it's called Shulchan Aruch Harav. And he holds, yeah, you must have the 9, and if not, it's actually Brachot Lebatala. However, those that are standing on the other side would say, no, you know why Shulchan Aruch wrote that it's close to being Brachot Lebatala? Because it's not 100% of Brachot Lebatala. Why? Because we see that the Shulchan Aruch himself says that if someone is asleep, he could still join the minyan. So they say, how could he join the minyan if he's asleep? He's obviously not answering amen. So we see from here that even if they don't answer, it's good enough. So the Ben Ishchai and the Taz and all those that are standing on the other side, the Shulchan Aruch would say, Shulchan Aruch Harav, they would say, well, when he said that one person can join during his sleep, that means during the Kaddish. For the Kaddish, it's okay if you have the majority of the minyan answering and the rest are not. But for Amidah, they would say you have to. On the other side, they'd say no, it's not. There's no differentiation between Kaddish and Amidah. For all of those, it's sufficient to have a Rov Minyan, a majority of a minyan. So I looked up Yalkut Yosef, Rav Yitzchak Yosef, the author of the book that we are learning. I didn't see this inside, but I heard him verbally saying it in one of his speeches. I wanted to organize it finally. And yes, I heard him saying that because of this controversy where it's Bachot Levatala or not Bachot Levatala, since there is a side to say that even if they're not 9 answering, it's okay to have a minyan. Then in a case where you're praying in a minyan, and some guys we're counting on them to be 10, but they're praying Amidah like there's no forever and ever. It's not ending. So if it's not ending, you're not going to do torach tzibur. You're not going to make the crowd so tired by waiting and waiting. You're allowed to start even though you don't have 10, but you just have a majority of 10. He says it's better to have a visual majority, meaning if he's the chazan, we have 9 more people. Don't have just 5. Better if you have 6, so that it's 6 compared to 3 remaining. It's visual as opposed to 4 against 5. But either way, we lean on that would be sufficient while the others are praying, so that we could start Amidah. We won't do torach tzibur. Having said that, I also saw Achronim that it's written that that's only if these guys are doing something regarding the mitzvah, the tefillah, they're praying. But if they're just chatting, then maybe all the brachot are levatala. Either way, our conclusion is the minimum is that the brachot are close to being levatala. If you are busy with something else and you still want to start the minyan, but that thing is a mitzvah, there's room to be lenient. However, if people are just chatting, then we're back to the problem. So I just wanted to clarify the language of the Shulchan Aruch. All right, back to Hilchot Keriyat Shema. Now, this is the case. We just learned that I have to have certain kavanot. Maybe soon we'll talk again about the kavanot that when we read Keriyat Shema. That's the main thing that we should remember. What happens if I finish Keriyat Shema and now I remember, oh my God, I did not have kavanah. Giacomo Baruch Haba. I finished Kriyat Shema and I remember that I don't have kavanah. So obviously I have to go back. It's a mitzvah from the Torah. The question is, what do I have to go back on? Do I have to read the whole thing? Halacha is brought down that the only thing that you will have to repeat again is the Shema, Baruch Shem, etc., until Uvisharecha, the Avta, until Uvisharecha. You do not have to read again Vaya im Shamoa. That's the main thing that you have to repeat. And if you do that again with Kavanah, it's sufficient. You don't have to read the Vaya im Shamoa again. So what are these kavanot that we are talking about? Steve, you've been tested on this, so I'm talking to you because you're the one that I see his face. So that's the price for me to see your face. But we've been tested on this, so let's remember together. I brought also the siddur before me. so that we could also later read one more thing that I want to present to you. Igal, Baruch haba, Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom.
You missed the introduction, but I already said it to you last night when I saw you, so you didn't miss much. Baruch Hashem. Okay, very good. So now, what are the kavanot that I have to have during Kiryat Shema? Even though we've learned this before, but maybe we'll find something new that we haven't learned, and also it's good to recite it. So first of all, Shema Yisrael, the first two words, the literal translation is "Listen, Israel." All right. So when you look at the Sidurim, although the ones in English don't have it, but the Sidur that I pray and a lot of Sidurim Hebrew, they have what to have in mind in each part. Shema Yisrael, you should say Hasket u'Shma, like listen. This is the time where you should focus. Listen, okay, prepare yourself. Shema Yisrael, okay, Israel, we're listening. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. So under Hashem, we know that Hashem is Adon Hakol Haya Hove Ve'yeh. We've learned this, which means the master of the world. He was, he is, and he will be. And then Elokeinu. Elokeinu is the name we said of judgment. Elokim means Takif Ba'al HaYecholet U'Ba'al HaKochot Kulam. He is with the ability and with all the strengths, all right? And then Hashem again, so that's Adon HaKol Haya V'Yeh, the master of the world was, is, and always will be. And then finally, we get to Echad. What kavanah do we have to have in Echad? So first of all, the most basic kavanah is that Echad is one, that Hashem is one. There's one and there's no second to him. It's not like one, like in the Kabbalah it says in the Zohar HaKadosh, Antu chad vela bechushban. God, you are one, but not like in math when after one comes two and three and four. You are one of oneness, meaning it's one thing that we cannot understand, but we have to believe in the Ichud, that God is one. First of all, Aleph. So if you look at the three letters of Echad, Aleph, Chet, and Daled, the Aleph, which is the first letter of the alphabet, the Gimatria, the numerical value of Aleph, is one. So we have in mind that God is one. The second letter is Chet. What's the numerical value of Chet? Anybody know?
8.
8. Very good. Chet, like the Chet Nerot of Chanukah, the 8 candles of Chanukah. So what kavanah do we have with the letter Chet? Chet is, there's something called Shiva Reki'im. A Rakia is kind of like a sky. Maybe there's a better word for it in English. If any of you know, please let me know. But we believe that there are 7 skies, meaning the distance until we get to the upper world, there's 7 stages to pass. This is obviously a deep concept that I'm sure most of us don't understand, but it gives us a feeling of how great the world is. Just like people don't understand how great, astronomy, all the stars, and how far and how big. My little boy that's 9 years old knows much more than me. He always tells me chidushim about the stars, but every time I hear something, I get blown away. So we don't exactly understand, but we know that God is great. So this is the chet. The chet means that there's 7 rekim until we get to you, which is or not to get to God, but with God it's 8, right? That's and finally the letter dalet. By the way, we mentioned last time that the letter chet is created from 2 zines. So really, if this is like kind of a zine, this is kind of a zine. It has that in the middle. It goes up and down. So we believe that the abundance comes from up and comes back down to us. That's through our tefillah. We make an influence and then it comes back down to us. So that was the chet. And then the letter daled, which the numerical value of it is 4, that God controls the 4 sides of the world: south, north, east, and west. Okay. Now, if you think about it, a person reading this pasuk, you just asked him to have 20 kavanot. It's very difficult. Hopefully, we have that. You try, you focus, you want to do it. If you're serious, you write it down. You say, you know what, it's going to take me a while. First week, it's harder work, but after that, it's going to be on autopilot. I'm going to remember it. Amazing. But even if not, what is mandatory? What is a must? That if we don't have that kavanah, we have to repeat Shema. That's one thing. Kabbalat ol malchut shamayim, that I accept that God is above me. God is above me, He's ruling the world. There's a God. Right? That's the main thing that happens in Kiryat Shema, and that's why we close our eyes, as we explained last time, to block ourselves from the things that distract us in this world, to focus and understand that we are under HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Once you did not have that kavanah, then, as we said, you have to repeat the Shema. Depends where you stop, but generally, no more than until uvish arecha. You never have to repeat again the V'haya im Shama. Okay, so that was that. Okay, we said that. So we went through the kavanot. Now, Baruch Shem. Oh, this is interesting. There's a beautiful midrash on this that I want to share with you. What is this Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto that we say, and where did it come from? So we know that when Yaakov Avinu passed away, he was about to reveal the secrets of the Geulah. When is the redemption going to come? When is Mashiach going to come to his children? Chazal say, Bikesh legalot et haketz, nistalka mimeno ruach hakodesh. Meaning, the Shekhinah, the divine presence, left him. So right before he passed away, he was about to reveal the secrets of the Geulah, but that left him. And he thought to himself, why did that just leave me? Why did the Shekhinah, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Spirit just leave me? Maybe it's because I'm about to tell secrets to my kids and perhaps someone of them is not worthy. Maybe there's something bad about them that I'm not aware. And we all know that Yaakov Avinu, as opposed to all the other Avot, he had 12 sons which were all perfect tzaddikim. Abraham had Yitzchak, but he also had Ishmael. Yitzchak had Esav and he had Yaakov. When it came to Yaakov Avinu, 12 perfect children. So now he's surprised. Why is Ruach HaKodesh leaving me? So he says to them, Shema yesh benechem echad she'eino agun. Perhaps one of you is not worthy. Maybe that's why it happened. And they answer back and say, Shema Israel. Yaakov Avinu, his name is also Israel, right? His name was changed from Yaakov to Israel, Kisarita, because he fought with the angel, the whole story, but that's his name, Israel. So they say Shema Israel, which means listen, Father. Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. God is one, we believe in God. That was to relax him, to tell him, of course we're all worthy. We're your children. We learn from you that there's one God. We're okay. And then he said to himself as a response, okay. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'et. Right? But that response was not written in the actual Torah. The response of Yaakov Avinu, that blessed the name of Hashem forever and ever, I see my kids are going in the right path, that's not written in the Torah. That's brought in the Midrashim. So if you ask, why do we say Baruch Shem silently? Because that was the response to Shema Israel. It should be out loud. The answer is, whatever is said out loud is written in the Torah. The Pasuk Shema Israel is written in the Torah. But the Baruch Shem, since it's not written in the Torah, it came from a Midrash, so to kind of mark that, to understand that, then we say the Baruch Shem part silently. All right, that was the Baruch Shem. Also, an important tip, when you say the Baruch Shem, you don't read quickly, Baruch Shem Baruch Olam Va'et. It's Baruch Shem, comma, Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'et. That's the proper way to read it. And the kavanah is in it that, what kavanah do we have when we say Baruch Shem Baruch Olam Va'et? That God's name should be blessed, meaning his name and him are one. Only now, it's not one. When we say God's name, is it God to us? It's a name, because he is hidden from us. But we pray that Bezat Hashem, when the Geulah comes, the name will not be hidden and far from his being. It'll be one. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'et.
So, so Vechara'af in Shema, that is quiet. That's also not from the Torah?
No, that is from the Torah, and I'm happy that you mentioned that. Today we'll touch that. We'll see how come we are whispering over there. Okay. But slowly, don't jump the gun. Okay. Now, who wants to tell me? If I'm saying Shema in my mind, I'm meharher Shema. Am I yotzei yedei chova or no? Or do I have to verbalize?
Verbalize.
You have to verbalize. Chazak u'baruch. Even though there's an opinion of the Rambam that anything we do in our mind, it's considered yotzei yedei chova, but Shema Israel, it's from the Torah, and we go with the opinions that on the Torah we have to be more strict, and therefore we have to verbalize, read it. And even if it's not out loud, but at least you have to move your lips in a way that if there was complete silence, your ears would hear something. So you have to have a little wind coming out of your mouth when you're saying it. Shema is in a different level than anything else because it's the only part of the tefillah that we have that is from the Torah. There's a machloket if generally tefillah, which is the Amidah basically, if it's from the Torah or from Chachamim. Ramban with an N, he holds that it's from the Torah. The Rambam holds that it's only from Chachamim. But even if we hold that the tefillah is from the Torah, but what is tefillah? We have no order. That anyway was written by Chachamim. The only thing that we have in the tefillah that is from the Torah is the Shema Israel. That's why it gets the special attention. Okay. Now, as Steve asked, what about v'chara'af? I think it's very important that together.
Sorry, Shema Israel and Birkat Hamazon.
Yeah.
Midoraita, right?
Very good, very good. I meant it in the tefillah, meaning in what we read in
Oh,
Shahar.
sorry.
Yeah, Birkat Hamazon, of course, is also from the Torah, like the pasuk says, "Ve'achalta ve'savata u'verachta." You eat, you get full, and then you say Birkat Hamazon. Notice that you need to be full for it to be from the Torah. Meaning, if you eat a little bit and you're not full, some say it's not from the Torah still. You have to be full. But we're very far from Ilchot Birkat Hamazon.
Far from that. Sorry
Yeah,
that.
let's try to focus on the Shema. So, what's happening with the Shema Yisrael? I think it's worth it that one time. Just see that I have enough time to do this. Okay, we're good. One time we'll do Shema from A to Z. With your permission, I'll read it with the Tamim so that we see what is the most ideal way to do it. Now, to tell you that every time any one of us is going to read Shema, it's going to be like that, I don't know. But at least what is the ideal? And the ideal is, the halakha says that you have to be careful when you read Shema, but devikim. What is devikim? Devikim is two words that when one letter of the word, this word ends with one letter, and the next word begins with that letter, then these two letters might be glued together. For example, al levavecha. If someone doesn't know, it sounds like he said a and levavecha, but it's not that. It's al and levavecha. So if you put a wall between those words, Chazal say, then when chas v'chalila someone has to go to Gehenom to be punished for what that he did, Chazal say they're going to put a wall for him from the fire. If you put a wall between the letters, you were careful. Kol mi shenizar b'kirat shema metzanenim lo Gehenom. Then his Gehenom will also be pulled off by a wall coming in between him and the fire. That's a way of saying be very, very careful with the Keriyat Shema to not miss any word, any letter, because this is from the Torah. So what's the best way to read it? Live demonstration, with your permission. I'm about to say Shema right now. Let's say we got Bocher B'amo Yisrael Be'ava, and I'm saying Shema. So now I say to myself, again, this is the most ideal way. Of course, we know what the minimum that is required from us, but this is the most ideal way. Shema Yisrael, so first of all, I have kavanah. I'm accepting upon myself Ol Malchut Shamayim. Now I'm closing my eyes. Shema Yisrael, Haven Vasket, listen, Israel, listen, Am Israel. Hashem, God, Haya Ove Ve'yeh Adon Hakol. He was, He is, and He always be the Master of the world. Elokenu, which means Takif Ba'al Echolot U'Ba'al Kochot Kulam. He who has all the strengths. And then again, Hashem, Haya Ove Ve'yeh Adon Hakol, which means Master of the world was, is, and always will be. Echad, the Aleph is that Hashem is one. The Chet is that Hashem controls the 7 Reki'im, and with Him we have 8. And then the Dalid is for the 4 winds of the world that Hashem creates, controls those as well. If we have ability to also remember how the Chet of the Echad is built, it has an arrow up to say that we are going, the abundance comes from our tefillah going up and coming back down to us. We've completed the first part, the Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. When we read that, we say Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. We are supposed to pull the Dalid a little bit, all right? Hashem Echad. And then we say quietly, Baruch, Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'et, as we said. Stop a little bit after the Baruch. Now I'm going to read to you the Keriyat Shema, and whenever you
sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. Why do we pull the Dalit a little bit?
So the oneness of Hashem, I think I wanted to myself to look into that, but I know that there's a fear that you're not gonna be able. The Dalit may sound like a different letter, like Chad. You get stuck there. It's not heard very well, so you pull it, but make sure that it sounds like a Dalit and not like a different letter. But I want to take that as homework to dig a little deeper, because that answer didn't really satisfy me, so I'm assuming it didn't satisfy you as well. I want to see if I could find. If any of you know of an answer of why we pull the Dalet, I would also love to hear. But that I want to find another answer, B'ezrat Hashem. Hopefully, I'll find. I'll get back to you. All right. Now let's begin. I'm going to read it with Tamim and point out the areas that we need to put Devikim. Again, the right way to put stops in the words so that it's read in a proper way. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך. Notice, number 1, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי. Now I could say אשר אנוכי. No, it's אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, again, a stop between the אל תלבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישריך, והיה אם שמוע תשמעו. The ayns in Hebrew, the proper way to say an ayn is not like an aleph. What's the difference between aleph and ayn? The ayn is a little it has that sound to it. And what's the difference between chet and kaf? Chaf, chaf sounds like ch. The chet should sound like het. It comes a little bit from a different place. Not everybody's makpid on that. It's not it's not an easy thing to do if you're not used to it, definitely. But if you can, that's also a high level of perfecting the Shema. והיה אם שמוע תשמעו אל מצוותיי אשר אנוכי, again, not אשר אנוכי, it's אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיכם ולעובדו בכל לבבכם. But a stop between those two lamets. ובכל נפשכם. The accurate sidurim also have a little mark above every two words that may be problematic when you attach them. ונתתי מטר ארצכם, מטר ארצכם. It's two words, מטר, which is rain, and ארצכם, and of your land. But if I read מטר ארצכם, it sounds like מטר and ארצכם. No, it has to put a stop in there. מטר ארצכם, בעיתו יורה ומלקוש, ואספת דגניך ותירושך ויצריך, ונתתי עשב בשדך. Pay attention. Esev v'sadecha. It could sound like the letters are connecting because it ends with a bet and it begins with a bet, even though it's a vet. Esev besadecha. But if you attach them quickly, it sounds like esev v'sadecha. So make a stop. Esev besadecha livimtecha ve'achalta ve'savata yishameru lachem penifte levavchem ve'sartem va'avadtem Elohim acherim. There are two stops here. Va'avadtem. Now it ends with a mem. And then you say the word Elokim. If I read it quickly, va'avatem melo. It's like va'avadetem melo. Can't be like that. You have to make people understand that the mem belongs to the first word. Va'avadetem Elokim, again, ends with a mem and begins with an aleph. Anytime a word ends with a mem and begins with an aleph, we have that problem. So va'avadetem Elokim acherim v'ishtachavitem lahem. And now we reached Steve's question. Anybody know why the custom is to whisper these few psukim?
Because we're not talking about good things. We're talking about like if we don't do what Hashem says and all like the chas v'shalom, the bad things that will fall upon us.
That's the idea. The idea is that when we mention things that are negative, we try to whisper them. Now, you don't have to put emphasis on them. Okay, it's part of the Torah. We read it. Same thing with the parashot of the Kelalot. If any of you ever heard Rabbi Maruf reading the Torah, when he gets to the Kelalot, he reads it very quickly and also in a low volume, and that's the custom. When we read the Kelalot, we try to give it less emphasis. So what are these pesukim? V'chara af Hashem bachem, Hashem chas v'chayla will get angry at you and he will stop the rain. Chas v'shalom, I don't even want to verbalize. But this is the Torah, so we're allowed to verbalize. So, but in order for us to learn how to read it properly, I'm still going to read it out loud. And you should know that when the Chazan reads it, he shouldn't stop having volume. He still needs to read it in a way that people could hear, just a lower, because that's the custom. Right? Now, very important place to stop is between v'chara and af. Because people sometimes say it so quickly, they say v'charaf. It's not v'charaf, it's not one word. V'chara, af. אדוני בכם בעצרת השמיים ולא יהיה מטר והאדמה לא תיתן את יבולה. If you look at the word yevula, there's a dot in the hay. That's called a mapik. Whenever you want to make something belong to somebody, you put a dot in the mapik. For example, the word isha. Isha means a wife. But if there's a dot inside the hay, it doesn't mean a wife anymore. It's a completely different word. It means the ish, the man, that is hers. Shelah, isha, her husband. Right? So that's what's happening here. So how do we make people notice that there's a dot in the hay because it has no sound? The answer is it's kind of like a at the end. Et yevulah. ועבדתם מהרה מעל הארץ הטובה אשר אדוני נותן לכם. And now we continue out loud. ושמתם את, again, I made a stop between ושמתם, which ended with a mem, and et, ושמתם et, and then between the et and the dalid of devarai, we should make another stop because the letter taf and dalid sometimes sound very similar. It could sound like et devarai, and it's not et devarai, it's et devarai. Ele al levavchem, ends with a lamed, begins with a lamed, we put a stop. Ve'al nafshechem ukshartem otam, again, ukshartem had a mem, letter aleph after with otam. If I don't read it with a stop, it'll sound like uksharte motam, God forbid, and you tied the death, motam. It's not motam, it's ukshartem otam. All these things that we're careful is because we don't want to change the understanding of what we're reading. לאות על ידכם והיו לטוטפות בין עיניכם ולימדתם אותם. Again, I made a stop between the mem and the aleph. את בניכם לדבר בם בשבתך בביתך ומלאכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך וישעריך למען ירבו ימיכם בימי בניכם על האדמה אשר נשבע. They say to put emphasis on the ayin so that we hear that it's nishba with an ayin. There's another word nishba in Hebrew which means taken captive, but that would be written not with an ayin, with a hey, like a captivity. So this is nishba with an ayin. So they say be careful to make people hear the ayin. נשבע אדוני לאבותיכם לתת להם כימי השמיים על הארץ ויאמר אדוני למשה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם ונתנו על ציצית הכנף ותל תכלת והלחם ציצית אוריתם אותו. Again, the mem and the aleph, you have to make a stop between uritem moto, or else it sounds like, and someone will see someone's death. Uritem moto. It's not moto. Uritem oto. Udvchartem ends with a mem. Next word with an aleph. Et kol mitzvot Adonai v'asitem otam. Again, mem and aleph. ולא תטו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים. אשר אתם. Or else it sounds like אשר ratem. It's not ratem, asher atem. Zonim achar leman tizkeru. Also, put emphasis on the zayin here, because there's also tizkeru with a sin that has a completely different meaning. So they say, make sure that it's understood that it's a zayin. Leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai. I made a stop between the va'asitem and et, mem and aleph. ויתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. כן, stop. אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, אתכם מארץ. Two mems, also a stop. להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. All right, so that was a lot to take in. But once you get used to it, especially Torah readers, this is, the people want to notice who's a very good Torah reader. How can I tell that the guy knows what he's doing? Is when he's careful with these things. If you look at all the boys that are learning now to be Torah readers, sometimes you don't even notice. But Baruch Hashem, the teachers that this community have, the boys are so accurate. They're so careful with not connecting words. So when it comes to Keriyat Shema, even though we're not Torah readers, but it's ideally that would be the right way to read it, to be a little bit more careful, not to attach words. If it's hard for us to know, and it's even hard for me, but certain sidurim, they mark all the areas that have potential of problems where they basically tell you, don't connect the words. Make sure you stop between word A to word B. So since this is a mitzvah from the Torah, I would strongly recommend to try and work on that. Having said that, again, even though we weren't exactly careful with all the letters and with all the perfect kavanah, we only go back if we miss the main kavanah, which is having Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim, accepting God upon us. This is, of course, if we said all the words. If someone read very quickly and he also swallowed the words, then he has a problem. He didn't read Shema, so that's a different story. But assuming that he did, he just wasn't careful with the devikim, with the words that connect and go together. All right. Now, do we have another second? How are we doing? No, we don't have. No, we'll leave it for next time, Bezrat Hashem. All right, gentlemen.
I noticed that you weren't limited to, I call it a dash between the words. You also touched upon a mem, ending mem with a starting mem, so to speak. So basically, you have to pause between the words.
Right. But for example, velo taturu. I'm not going to say velo taturu. There's no need because it cannot sound any different. Velo taturu. It's not another word. Certain words, they create a new combination that could sound like other words. And that's usually when it ends with a mem and begins with an aleph, or if it ends with a mem and begins with a mem, or ends with a lamed and begins with a lamed. Those words, they can attach to a new creation. So we don't.
If I don't speak Hebrew, if I don't understand the Hebrew words, I have to be careful with the mems and the lamets.
And when an aleph comes after that, I would recommend to get the siddur that just points out where, if you want to, one time when we're together, I could show it to you.
Okay.
Like a little mark above those words that have potential problems so that we put a stop between them. Bezat Hashem.
Okay.
Rabotai, tizku lemitzvot.
Thank you, Ziv.
Zack Baruch.
Thank you.
Bye bye.